What up, guys? It's Dom, and welcome back to another movie review. Today we're going over and ranking Good Will Hunting. Good Will Hunting, released in 1997, directed by Gus Van Sant, and written by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Will Hunting, a janitor at MIT, has a gift for mathematics, but needs help from a psychologist to find direction in his life. So obviously this movie is a fan favorite, and shame on me for not watching this movie beforehand, because it is actually outstanding. I loved this movie. I watched it for the very first time, and I really could not believe I haven't watched it before. But either way, let's just get right into the 10 essential aspects of a movie. The first essential aspect is plot. Now, the plot of this movie is the one thing about this movie that I think could have used some work. Now, I'm not saying the plot's bad. I actually really liked the plot. It's just out of all of the essential aspects I'm going to be going over, this is the one thing where I had some kind of thing wrong with it. I thought it was confusing at some points towards the beginning and middle part, but that was just straight up one or two scenes that I was confused about. Nothing else is really wrong with it. I think the plot's really good. I love that it has different sections to focus on, how you're focusing about the love interest, how then you're also focusing about, okay, his actual skill with math and the job, and then I don't want to just really spoil what the whole movie's about, but I just like how the plot is sectionized, but it still weaves between them with a way that makes sense, so that you don't get confused by all the different plot points, but they work well with each other. I guess that's what I'm really trying. I just like that the plot makes sense even though it has so much in it. The second essential aspect is attraction. Is this movie attractive? I definitely think it is. I feel like the comedy's good. It is definitely targeted towards a specific audience, because I did find a lot of it funny, but some of it not as much. But for the most part, it was funny. Now, I feel like someone else that could be watching this could think none of it's funny or that everything's hilarious. But for me, I thought the movie was pretty funny in the points where it's supposed to be. But the best part of this movie, and the part I was the most attracted to, was definitely the chemistry between Will and Sean. I think they did amazing. They really made me believe that this is an actual relationship with real characters, and it just got me more and more invested. I wanted to see how their relationship would continue on throughout the movie, starting off as just the troubled kid with the psychologist, and then turning into this almost father-son chemistry that they have. And I thought that was really good, and it made me want to keep watching the movie to see what happens with those two characters. So when it comes to entertainment and attraction, it really did drew me in. The third essential aspect is theme. The message that I understood from this movie is, don't let what happened to you in the past affect who you become in the future. I feel like that's a big message that they came across in this movie. There was a bunch of it. Honestly, this movie was filled with themes and messages, but that's the one that really stuck out to me. It had the most to do with the plot. I felt like all of it was leading up to that question in Will's head. So I thought that was an amazing message, and a really deep one at that. The fourth essential aspect is dialogue. Loved the dialogue in this movie. I feel like every single conversation in this movie felt real. It really just looked like it was real characters talking, or real people talking in the movie. I feel like especially Will, who was played by Matt Damon, he the way that he's talked in this movie made it feel like he actually went through everything that his character did. I feel like he did an amazing job. The writing by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck was amazing. They knew exactly how to capture the emotion in the moment with the writing. So I gotta say, the dialogue was probably the best out of the movies I've watched so far on this channel. The fifth essential aspect is acting. Now, just like in the dialogue, the acting, outstanding. Every single character felt real, not just through the dialogue, but the way they acted. I feel like all the characters captured the proper emotions that they were supposed to match the theme and the scene correctly. And I do have to give credit to Matt Damon, who played Will. He is obviously the main character. It's his story that we're talking about, and he did an outstanding job. I loved the character, the connections that he made with other characters. Like, for example, Sean, played by Robin Williams, also did an amazing job. Same thing. I should have mentioned him in dialogue, but him and Will both, the conversations they have in their sessions It really not only pulls at your heartstrings, but it makes you feel more connected to the characters. And even in the scene where Robin Williams was arguing with another character, I forget the name, but that scene where they're arguing and Will walks in on them, that just drew me in. It really, really felt real. And that's it's hard to make a conversation and an argument feel real with all the emotions. It obviously there's great actors out there that definitely can do that, but I feel like in a lot of movies it's not 100% real. Like there's some parts that you can pick at and just really notice something that's not as realistic, but in this movie everything felt real. And also Ben Affleck, who played Chucky. Now, he did a good job. Everyone did a good job acting. I feel like he also did a good job. I did like his character. But I want to talk about, in particular, one scene that really, like, made it feel extra real. And that was when he had his little speech to Will when they were working at the job. And he was saying that he is waiting for the day that he goes to pick up Will like it's every other day, and he's not there because he wants him. He doesn't. Obviously, he doesn't want him to leave because it's his best friend, but he wants him to leave because he knows that he can, because of the special gift for mathematics he has. He can go and do big things with his life, make a lot of money, be successful. He doesn't have to stay with them working construction because that's all they can do. And that speech really made that character come to life for me. I feel like that held a lot of emotion. It was meant to dig deep and really get the audience invested more, and I think they definitely nailed it. So overall, all the acting was good in this, but those three in particular characters knocked it out of the park. The sixth essential aspect is cinematography. So in cinematography, we're obviously talking about how it looks and how the emotion really gets you. So how it looks, it's nothing really special. I mean, it looks good. It's not a bad looking movie. There's no terrible CGI or terrible scenes. Like it's all good. It looks good. But when it comes to the emotions, that's where this movie kills it. I thought that I was so invested with these characters, every single one of them. Whenever something happened, it tugged at my heartstrings. It made me feel for the character, and the ending really made me feel it. I actually did tear up. I'm not even going to mention my girlfriend because she teared up way more than I did. But I usually don't tear up at movies unless they're really, really good. So the fact that I teared up means it's really, really good, and I have nothing else to say. I mean, this movie is amazing at tugging at your heartstrings and bringing the emotions out of you. The seventh essential aspect is editing. So Good Will Hunting is 2 hours and 6 minutes long, and I think that's a great length. They needed that time to make the plot go where it's supposed to and actually pace it well and have enough time to develop all these awesome characters that you want to see on screen. Because if they made it any shorter, who knows? Maybe you wouldn't get as invested in some of the characters as you could, and the movie wouldn't have as much of an emotional value. But because they did, it worked really well. And I also feel like stretching it any longer than 2 hours usually can end up ruining a movie. It's too long. There's a lot of dead space. I feel like this movie had very minimal dead time. I feel like there was just a few scenes I could pick out that didn't need to be in there, but they weren't long scenes. It was just like, oh, a 1 minute scene here that I was like, okay, but it's not enough to really damage the movie in any way. So I think the editing was pretty good. The eighth essential aspect is soundtrack. So I don't really remember the soundtrack. I wouldn't say it's very memorable. I did like the intro to the movie. I thought that kind of resembled the main theme going on, and the outro to the movie. I thought the beginning and end, the soundtrack was good. I don't really remember what it was, but I remember how it made me feel. I actually enjoyed that part. But when it comes to the rest of the movie, I don't really remember a soundtrack. The ninth essential aspect is directing. Now, the director of this movie is Gus Van Sant, and it was his job to take these previous 8 essential aspects, put them together to make a movie that's worth watching. And obviously, you've seen the rest of this review. It is definitely worth watching. I'm still surprised I didn't watch it way earlier. I missed out a bunch on being able to rewatch this. Now I'll finally be able to rewatch it in the future, but I could have been rewatching this so many times just because of how good of a movie this is. And I missed out on all those opportunities because I just watched it for the first time now. But Gus previously directed 5 different movies, and they were Mala Noche, Drugstore Cowboy, My Own Private Idaho, Even Cowgirls Get the Blues, and To Die For. Now, I've never heard of these other movies, but if they're anywhere as good as Good Will Hunting, I mean, I gotta see them. I doubt it, because I feel like Good Will Hunting is just so high up there in the conversation that it would not compare. But either way, 100% worth watching. I think he did an amazing job directing this, and it definitely helped that he had Matt Damon and Ben Affleck write for him, because they clearly knew what they were doing. And the 10th essential aspect is time. So this movie is 27 years old. So I gotta say, it stood the test of time for sure. I mean, this is a lot of people's favorite movie, and being 27 years later and still being like that means it has to have stood the test of time. And honestly, this is up there for my favorite movies now too. So yeah, I think it's not even a question. It does stand the test of time. Now, onto the reviews. The reviews are right where I thought they would be. So Rotten Tomatoes critics gave him a 97%, Rotten Tomatoes audience gave him a 94%, and IMDb gave it an 83%. Now, usually I say that nothing really deserves to be a higher rating, but this time I'm going to say 83%, way too low for this movie. Let's get that one out of here. Now let's talk about the 94 to 97. I feel like 97 is almost accurate. I'd say I'm sticking more than 94, because either way, it's a fantastic movie. Being anywhere in the 90s compared to every movie ever made is really good. I just never want to give a movie that's not absolutely perfect more than like a 95. I just feel like it has to be breathtaking. And this movie is. But because I still could nitpick and pick a few things that I would change, means it isn't perfect. So I can't give it that close to 100%. I'm going to stick with that 94. So I'd say like low 90s is right where I'd put it. And finally, the rankings. I don't think these rankings are going to surprise you guys, but either way, where will Good Will Hunting rank in its year, decade, and in all time? Let's find out, starting in 1997. It's going to be first, above Steel. I'm not even going to waste my breath. The difference between these two movies is ridiculous. Steel is terrible, and Good Will Hunting is fantastic. So let's just go straight on to the 1990s, where it will also be first, above Toy Story. Now, this is where it's closer, because Toy Story is also an amazing movie. I just feel like Good Will Hunting got me more invested in the movie, and that's the real deal breaker here. I mean, if a movie can get me invested in it and make me appreciate it for what it is, that's 5 stars. So I have to put Good Will Hunting above it. It's just Toy Story was an entertaining movie. I did love the movie. I rewatched it plenty of times, but it didn't get me as invested as Good Will Hunting did. And in all time, it's also going to be first, above Deadpool. Now, this is where it's very close, because Deadpool is one of my favorite movies ever, and now so is Good Will Hunting. I just feel like this is the time where I had to really look at it as a movie standpoint, and less of a what is my favorite style of, let's say, Marvel, because as a movie in its own, Good Will Hunting is the better movie. I feel like it reaches a broader audience, it covers a lot more, and has a more meaningful watch to it. Even though Deadpool is definitely more entertaining. I mean, it's made for entertainment. It's made for superhero lovers. It's made for comedy. It's way funnier, way more entertaining. I just feel like Good Will Hunting, the fact that I got so emotionally invested in these characters and just the cinematography on its own, I have to put it above it. It's definitely close. It's definitely close, but I just couldn't see myself, even though I'm a Marvel fan, putting Good Will Hunting under Deadpool. That's all I have for Good Will Hunting. If you guys enjoy this review, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and make sure to comment what movie you want me to review next. What do you guys think of this movie? Do you think I'm way overhyping it? I really don't think so. I really think a lot of you in the comments would agree with me that this is an amazing movie. But where do you think I should have put it in this list if you disagree? I still think it deserves to be first. So either way, I hope you guys have an amazing night. Peace out.